What will be the fallout of this verdict on crucial reforms that are pending? Two special guests joining us on Business Tonight, Bibek, Debroy and Rahul, Bajaj. Gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time out and joining us on Business Tonight. Professor Bibek, Debroy, I want to start this off with you. Whichever way you analyze this verdict, it's pretty clear that Congress has emerged as a weaker party. And that's something that we really didn't need at this point in time.
I'm not very sure about that, because I don't agree with much of what the Congress has been doing. So I think it would be a good idea for the Congress to be weakened. The Congress has had a lot of arrogance. The agenda that has been pushing, including in UP, has been on communal lines, casteist lines. It has been looking for the scapegoat of the Trinamool Congress and other allies for an inability to push reforms. Many of those reforms that can be done are actually executive in nature. They are not legislative. So I think this comeuppance on the part of the Congress is a good idea.
But Professor Debroy, that basically means that for the next 2 years we can forget about reforms because, you know, a strong Congress wasn't doing much. A weaker Congress is going to do nothing.
No, but you misunderstood what I said. I said many of the reforms are not legislative. For instance, why is it the case that no bureaucrat today takes any decision? Has that got anything to do with legislation? One keeps coming back to FDI in multi-brand retail. I think that's a very, very small component of reforms. Why are forest clearances being held up? Why are road projects stagnating? All of this has nothing to do with legislation.
Okay, Mr. Bajaj, to bring you in as an industry leader, would you begin to get worried about political stability at the centre, given that the Congress may have to rework political alliances in general and somewhat signals now that, you know, the key party at the centre is already weakening? What's your take?
That after these elections, if the government can be stable, I don't see how Congress will want to go in for a midterm after the way they have performed, except in Manipur, everywhere else. And so I think, and a lot will depend on Samajwadi. They are so far ahead on their own that they don't need Congress, but Congress needs them in Delhi. And even Samajwadi Party has always been helpful. They helped them in nuclear liability bill, and they would want support and financial support and other things from Delhi. So I think whether they may not join the government, I don't know, but they can support each other.
Right.
Samajwadi in UP and Delhi and Congress in UP, and I think that will provide a lot of stability in the centre, but it will be known only in the next few days.
being on its own the way it is at the moment, looks like Sonia Gandhi, Congress is something that they're not even willing to listen to. But importantly, Bibek, Debroy, I want to come back to you on the issue that today, the big event of elections is over, but the next big event is the budget. Is this reason enough to know that the Congress has not managed UP, that it's time to get hard on the budget and forget populism entirely?
There is a difference between what I think should be done and what is likely to be done. I do think it's time for fiscal consolidation. I do think it's time to cut down on profligate public expenditure. I do think it's time to target subsidies. I do think it's time to reduce populism. Is that likely to happen? I don't think so. But my argument would be that this would have been the case even if the state level elections had gone differently. But going quickly back to something that Mr. Bajaj said, while there is no immediate threat in terms of stability to the present government, I think the budget session is going to be a pretty tough one. The parliamentary session is going to be a tough one. We've got the presidential elections coming along after that. For the moment, what I think is going to be somewhat difficult to do, partly because of the Trinamool, is an increase in the prices of petroleum products.
Right. Rahul, Bajaj, the point that Bibek Debroy made that the government will have to do a lot of things, but it's unlikely to take some tough decisions in this budget. Do you think this the mandate today is going to force the government to be on the defensive as far as the budget is concerned?
I don't think the Congress or the UPA too has to be defensive about the budget. But yes, they should be, what I say, I don't know how to put it, more sensible, more responsible. They say BJP doesn't cooperate. Yes, BJP also may not be cooperating, may be opportunistic. But forget BJP. Let Congress and UPT, especially Congress, behave in a magnanimous, in a good way. And for all measures, the budget is the easiest of the thing. But for the parliament to function properly, they have to reach out. I believe that. Congress won't like my saying that maybe. They may think I'm being partial to BJP. But no. BJP, I think both of them are behaving like children. I've said that on TV before. Both of them are behaving like school children. And I think both should mature and leave out their arrogance and egos and work for the good of the nation.
Bibek, Debroy, I want to get you in on this debate as well, because many believe that there is a possibility of early elections, and that's something that the market may not necessarily like, because stock markets, investors lack certainty, they lack predictability. How do you read into the situation? Do you think we may be going in for early polls, or do you think the Congress will try its best to ensure that elections are held only in 2014?
I don't think it's just the Congress, because as I said earlier, that with the exception of the Trinamool and the Samajwadi Party, it's not very clear to me why anyone ought to want early elections. However, the point I had made earlier was that it's going to be so untenable that we are probably going to have early elections without waiting for 2014. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I think the markets are being somewhat myopic. We have a tremendous amount of policy uncertainty today, and I would much rather that we have midterm elections soon, have a government that knows what it wants to do, so that we can get rid of this policy uncertainty and can push forward on the reforms.
Just a quick word, you already talked about the budget, but I want to get a sense from you. You're essentially saying it's going to be a tick-mark budget in that case, and we should not expect big changes, given that it's just a week away, so we guess much of it is already done.
I don't think we should expect too much from the budget. There isn't going to be any drastic pruning of expenditure. There aren't going to be any significant reforms on either direct or indirect taxes. On disinvestment, we will have more of the left hand buying from the right hand, and we'll have a fiscal deficit, a GDP ratio of something like 5%, based on an expected nominal real GDP growth rate of about 8%. So I don't think this particular budget will have any kind of big bang.
Professor Debroy, I want to draw your attention to the whole Rahul Gandhi factor. Now, as we all know, a large section of India Inc. may not say this on the record, but many of them are very worried about his anti-industrialization sort of streak, which was witnessed in mining areas, etc., with respect to environment issues and so on. To sort of buck that streak, Rahul Gandhi was using the whole Aam Aadmi card and going out there in rural UP trying to do what he wanted to do, be the soldier of the common man. Now, that's also backfired. I mean, do you think in many ways he's not got his strategy at all in place? Neither does he appeal to the urban nor to the rural anymore?
Well, that's a blanket question which deserves a very, very long answer. But let me keep it very brief. Many of the actions that were taken, be it on forest, be it on mines, be it on land acquisition, are okay if you are ruling in Delhi and you are not leading a state government. If you are in power in any state, regardless of which state it is, these kinds of things make life very difficult. So the Congress was behaving as if it was not going to rule in any state, and indeed that is exactly what has happened.
Oh yes, it's a big setback for Rahul Gandhi, isn't it? Rahul, Bajaj, I'll let you have the last word. BJP and the Congress relegated to the sidelines in the most important state politically. Both have done a pretty pathetic show if you were to look at it. Is that the big message out of this verdict?
The philosophy, which is in principle correct and desirable, of Rahul Gandhi, that we will ultimately go everywhere alone, as the Congress did till 1967, academically and theoretically is a good policy, but I don't see that happening. Whether it's Bengal, whether it's Bihar, whether it's Orissa, whether it's Tamil Nadu, whether it's UP, everywhere the regional parties in the near future, nobody knows what will happen 25 years down the line. But for the next year or few years, definitely for the 2014 parliament elections, if the Congress, it will depend on each state, but decides to go alone almost everywhere, I have a feeling they will lose out. Similarly, BJP. But after Punjab and Goa, BJP has done very well. In Manipur, Congress, but let's face it, it's a very important northeastern state, but from a centre's point of view, it's not that important in terms of number of MPs. Crucial point is, who will form the government in Uttarakhand? This could be a face-saving measure for Congress.
Okay, but as it stands, it's a big disappointment in Uttar Pradesh, isn't it? Rahul Bajaj and Bibek Debroy, thank you so much for joining us on that big debate right here on Business Tonight. Appreciate the fact that you took time out to join us with your thoughts.